the Republican Party ends up making Southerners incredibly uncomfortable. And so the opposite of the Republicans at this time is a group called the Democrats. Now, the Democrats are nothing like Democrats today, just like the Republicans then are nothing like the Republicans today. So in the 1850s and the 1840s, the Democrats are the slave power. That doesn't necessarily mean African Americans, but it doesn't mean African Americans' power. It means those that owned slaves and their political power. So the Republicans' perspective forces the South into the opposite ideology, right? The Republicans' perspective on we must limit slavery forces Democrats to come out as very pro-slavery, which is not something that they were before. They might have found it a necessary evil, they might have found it expedient, but they weren't pro-slavery in the way that someone advocates for its existence and its extension. And this is sort of, this debate causes the sort of house divided that we talked about in the Civil War. So we talked about the pro-slavery ideology in the Calhoun Doctrine. The Free Soiler Republican language offends Southern whites, so the South developed a pro-slavery language and ideology. They say the founders were wrong when they talked about the slavery as a necessary evil. They say that African Americans are incapable of dealing with freedom, and that African Americans are happiest when they're enslaved. Right? This is the new ideology. And they say that slavery is good for all whites because it creates greater white equality. So they developed a new platform. The Democrats developed a new platform based on this, and it's called the Calhoun Doctrine. So John C. Calhoun, who you see here, was a senator. He was the Secretary of War. He was eventually vice president under Andrew Jackson. He then goes back and becomes a senator and becomes Secretary of State under Taylor. In 1957, John Kennedy named him one of the five best senators of all time. He's very powerful, very intelligent, and he was the one who first argued that slavery was a positive good, and he does that in the 1830s. And he's also the one who posits the point of nullification under Jackson. Today we'll focus on his doctrine in his 1850s, which is that slavery is good. The doctrine states that the region should be entirely slave, right? Because in the Constitution, there's an implicit recognition of slaves, right? Because it's the 3/5 clause. That means that the Constitution is explicit support of slavery. Therefore, it would be unconstitutional to restrict slavery. Therefore, the Missouri Compromise should be reversed because it's unconstitutional. And that the federal government doesn't have the right to interfere in this regard. Therefore, all territories should be open and free to slavery. This allows for protection of their right to expand, because if they can't expand, they won't survive. And it's important to meet the growing need of the North, right? More people need to have access to slaves. That's how you succeed. This is how you get to the American dream. So the idea is slavery is good for not just blacks, but for whites too, and it's necessary and it's constitutional, and any argument against it is unconstitutional. So here becomes the new Democratic platform in 1856 that reflects this new pro-slavery ideology. Resolved, that the American democracy placed their trust in the intelligence, the patriotism, and the discriminating justice of the American people. Resolved, that we regard this as a distinctive feature of our political creed, which we are proud to maintain before the war as a great moral element in a form of government springing from and upheld by the popular will. Resolved, that we reiterate with renewed energy of purpose the well-considered declarations of former conventions upon the sectional issue of domestic slavery and concerning the reserved rights of the states. 1. That Congress has no power under the Constitution to interfere with or control the domestic institutions of the several states, and that all such states are the sole and proper judges of everything appertaining to their own affairs, not prohibited by the Constitution. That all efforts of the abolitionists or others made to induce Congress to interfere with questions of slavery or to take incipient steps in relation thereto are calculated to lead to the most alarming and dangerous consequences, and that all such efforts have an inevitable tendency to diminish the happiness of the people and endanger the stability and permanence of the Union, and not to be countenanced by and friend of our political institutions. By the late 1850s, the South begins to offer bounties for captured abolitionists, because they think these are people who are treasonous to the Union, right? They're making this an issue on trying to stop slavery, which is constitutional, right? They tend to bring them to Georgia and charge them with treason. The North hates this, right? This seems as a violation of freedom of speech and of press. The South makes it a felony to own or circulate abolitionist news, and they start destroying printing presses of abolitionists and of free soilers, which makes the North believe that the South is now a threat to the Republic.